You are now listening to the Big Data Beard. Hi, everybody. This is Cory from the Big Data Beard, and I am joined by Monte Zweben, CEO of Splice Machine, and we are at the Spark+AI Summit in San Francisco, California. Monte, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Well, it's an exciting conference, a lot of great stuff going on. I wanted to start by just giving you a chance to introduce yourself and tell us a little about you and Splice.
Thank you. Well, I'm a longtime AI person, so I'm really proud of the fact that our science has emerged to the point where we have conferences like this.
Yeah.
I started my career doing AI research at NASA, ran a NASA lab here in California, and then started a few AI-based companies. The first one was a supply chain software company that used artificial intelligence to plan and schedule manufacturing operations. That was eventually sold to PeopleSoft. Okay. And after being an executive at PeopleSoft for a little while, I got the itch to do something entrepreneurial again and started another AI-based company that was maybe one of the first machine learning companies. It incorporated machine learning directly into an omni-channel customer journey type of application. It started with e-commerce and all the way through to multi-touch point interactions with consumers. That company was called Blue Martini Software.
Okay.
And we eventually took that public, and later, I became the chairman and CEO of a digital media company called Rocket Fuel. And the reason for this somewhat long-winded bio is that in each of these AI initiatives, these ventures, we were fundamentally constrained by the data platform that was powering the underlying system. And so Splice Machine is our attempt to solve that problem.
Very cool. So Splice Machine, startup based here in the Valley, not too far from here, right?
That's correct. We're a San Francisco-based company here in the Soma district of San Francisco, and essentially we set out to build what we call an operational AI platform. Okay. It's a data platform that can power applications that use artificial intelligence, but not in a back room like many of the other analytics platforms you hear about even here at the conference. It's literally for injecting AI directly into the fabric of the enterprise, in the everyday workflow.
Okay.
And in order to do operational AI, we think there are 3 computational workloads that need to be supported in a really seamless way, not a duct-taped together way.
Not that we'd have that today.
Not that we do that today. And essentially, that's what we're trying to solve. We're trying to solve this problem where anyone trying to deploy AI in any real application has to get a boatload of engineers to fix the infrastructure first before they can even begin to think about the application layer.
Right.
And we think those 3 components are, first, definitely the machine learning that you hear about at a conference like the AI Summit here as being instrumental to being able to do AI. And of course, machine learning is nothing without really good data. So you need an analytical component to be able to take data and prepare it in a way that is providing signal for the machine learning. But the third component that's been missing here to date is the operational component. Yeah. And this is the component that literally allows you to run an application, to be in the moment, to look out the windshield of the enterprise, not just the rear view mirror of the enterprise in terms of analytics, and make a decision of what to do next. And that kind of workload has in the old days been really the venue where one would deploy old school relational database management systems, typically ones that are on one computer. And then when the big data world came into play and people tried to build AI apps, they realized that those wouldn't scale. And we see a lot of AI implementations trying to connect machine learning and analytics to operational NoSQL data stores. That's a lot of duct tape.
It is.
And so what we've done is taken this platform and put the SQL back into scale out. So the third component is literally a scale out relational SQL database. Okay. And so the 3 components, machine learning, analytics, and operational RDBMS are what we bring to the table.
Interesting. So that's an interesting concept because while for many years when Hadoop was kind of its infancy, you saw projects like Hive where they tried to bring SQL to a different underlying process. It sounds like you're taking a different approach.
Right. So everybody started when Google broke out and introduced their MapReduce paper many years ago, where they figured out a way to use massively parallel computing, but not have to be a PhD in distributed computing to do that. But that was very hard. It was extremely difficult to think in terms of MapReduce and using this technology. And so everyone tried to get to SQL, including Splice Machine. But everyone other than Splice Machine emerged with SQL for analytics. And what we're very focused upon is not only doing that, but also doing SQL for operational applications, literally running an application. Perhaps a story is best to
I would love
express
to expand
this.
on that.
So, for example, one of our customers is an insurance company.
Okay.
And they literally are trying to take what used to be an application that was driven by an IBM relational database management system and make it more agile in the cloud and build it at scale. So they're taking their application, which used to run on a regular database, and migrating that to Splice Machine.
Okay.
And that's great because they'll be more agile, it'll be cloud-based, it'll be scalable. But the real power comes in to the following, what I call data latency problem.
Okay.
They also have Spark-based machine learning models to detect fraud and other things like underwriting risk and other applications. But these models sit in the lab away from the business applications. And in fact, they're not operationally deployed. And the reason why they're not operationally deployed is that by the time the data gets from the claim-based system to the Spark-based machine learning models, the claims have changed many times.
Yes, a bunch of batch processing.
A lot of
slowed it
ETL.
down. Yeah, exactly.
And there's latency. It can take days.
For sure.
And unfortunately, then when you get it to the model and you make a prediction, that prediction is going to be wrong because it doesn't reflect the recent data. Right. So with Splice Machine, this customer is going to run their app on Splice Machine, and the Spark-based data models or machine learning models will run natively on that same data platform.
Okay.
So you avoid all of that latency. So you enable the operationalization of machine learning in production. And that is kind of the reason for our existence.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept because for so many years we talked about, in streaming it was like, these Lambda architectures where it's like, okay, take the data from some source system, send it somewhere, maybe have a scale out message bus system to get it there.
That's right.
But it was always adding something. What you're saying is a fundamental shift, and it's that why not run the applications in a modern way?
That's right.
Where the data is in the application or it's in a form that would already be high speed and usable.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And, some people have called us like Lambda in a box. Instead of you having to construct the Lambda, it literally gives you the benefits of what a Lambda architecture attempted to do. Right. But it's all packaged in SQL. And another really important piece of that is that the Lambda architecture required so many specialists, people who knew how to glue together these different distributed systems,
For sure.
perhaps being Hadoop experts. Yeah. For Splice Machine, the traditional IT person who's conversant in SQL can use it.
See, that's cool. And you can also then, correct me if I'm wrong, does it provide things like ACID transaction capability so that truly traditional like relational applications can live right there in the same platform?
It is the only big data platform that literally provides ACID compliance. That is the secret sauce.
Okay.
And, essentially we bring, the ACID back into AI processing.
Interesting. But then you give organizations the ability to then expose the data that has been operationally built, transacted against there. You got this, traditional OLTP kind of stuff hitting that. But now you're saying that you can bring big data on top of that because you've already landed it somewhere. So help me understand. I saw that there was an announcement about something called the ML Manager.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about what that is.
So what we're trying to do is not only support the application developer who wants to build an AI-based application at scale, but help the data engineer and data scientist too. So on Splice Machine, we ship our data platform with the same sorts of patterns that a data scientist and a data engineer would be very comfortable with. So for example, in our ML Manager, we have notebooks.
Mm-hmm.
So a data scientist can build their data pipelines, or a data engineer can build their data pipelines and experiment with different models, different parameters, different algorithms, and different features.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, we expose a native Spark data source. And I think this is a subtle but important point.
Mm-hmm.
Since Splice Machine is built on Spark, we expose our result sets as Spark data frames to the data scientist.
Okay.
And it doesn't need to be serialized through a protocol like JDBC or ODBC for those notebooks, because they can access a native data frame.
Right.
And so it's much faster and much more convenient for the data engineer and a data scientist to use the Splice Machine data store. And unlike traditional Spark users who use Spark in notebooks, they can take data frames that they've manipulated and transactionally store them and persist them in a database with one line of code.
Really?
So you can do a dot insert or a dot update or a dot delete, and that will literally take a data frame and update tables transactionally.
Okay.
So that's the beginnings. That's the lower levels of the machine learning manager. But then as you move up, you start to build application functionality that supports the data scientist in addition to the data platform. So here at the conference, we have adopted and announced a new capability of using Splice Machine in the data science workflow management by incorporating a new open source library supported by the Spark community called MLflow.
Okay.
And MLflow is a capability that allows a data scientist to incorporate in their notebooks an API that they can use to essentially mark their experiments with metadata. So what happens is, and to kind of craft the story, if you're a data scientist, you spend all day long running experiments. By the end of the day, you have a spaghetti of code in your notebook, and you can't remember which model did what.
Yeah.
Right?
The reproducibility is hard.
It's really hard. And it's really hard to just even remember, like, what are the results? How accurate was that model that I did with random forest versus the one that I used logistic regression on? Did I use the same features? What were my parameters? And so now inside the notebook, you can simply specify what you did, and there's a graphical user interface that allows the data scientist to literally plot how did this model do against this model and track that workflow.
Wow.
And so that's part of our system as well. And so the last layer is the layer that allows you to take those models and put them into production. And so we built a deployment mechanism too. So you could take a model that perhaps you've tracked in MLflow and then push it out to production, perhaps even on AWS SageMaker, where you can build an auto-scaled set of containers and deploy that out on the AWS cloud.
Okay.
So ML Manager is essentially taking the Splice Machine data platform and exposing data frames in notebooks with multiple machine learning libraries, with MLflow for data science workflow model management, and deployment via SageMaker.
Interesting, because one of the things I'm always concerned about when I talk to platform suppliers is, while many use open source, oftentimes they end up in a path that blocks out open source innovation from being relevant. But what you just said about Splice Machine was the way you've architected it. All the great things we heard at the keynote this morning in terms of the innovations happening in the Spark ecosystem, where you've got folks like Mate moving over and leading a lot of things on MLflow. Splice customers can take advantage of that. You're not blocked from that.
And I'm looking forward, because I know Mate is going to mention us tomorrow.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
Actually, it's fun, kind of funny. I didn't actually know that much about Mate until I took a course at MIT, and it was like one of these tackling the challenge, the big data executive courses. And I was like, that dude's really smart. And then I started reading his bio, and then I started seeing him on this stuff. I'm like, oh, this is so exciting.
I'm really proud of those guys.
Yeah.
The guys from the Amp Lab have done a great job with the Spark community. Way back when we started our company, we built the first transactional capability on the big data stack, and Spark started to emerge. And I had lunch with one of the leaders, in fact, the head of the Amp Lab at the time. He's now the dean at the University of Chicago. His name is Mike Franklin. And I said to Mike, Mike, is it possible for us to incorporate Spark into our engine so we get the benefits of Spark's in-memory computation for analytics, along with what we've done transactionally on top of Apache HBase, which is our transactional underpinnings? And he said that might be possible. Fast forward the clock, Mike joined our advisory board. We got to know the AmpLab guys, and now we have Splice Machine's operational AI platform. But been very proud to be part of the Spark community.
Very cool. So I'm curious to get your perspective. What's next for Splice Machine? As you've started to solve problems for customers, you've been integrated, you've started to move up the stack in terms of providing capabilities to data scientists in a really unique way. What's next? Like, where are you focusing the company's efforts over the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, the next 12 to 18 months is all about traction and use cases and building specific applications on top of this platform. For example, one of the most important points of inflection for the company, not for the technology, but for the company, is in a recent round of financing, Accenture joined our group of investors.
Okay.
And so one of the most important things for us is building solutions that have clear business outcomes that we can deploy on a vertical by vertical basis with our partners at Accenture. They're organized vertically. And so we're spending quite a bit of time both ramping the company's delivery capability with Accenture's help and training Accenture on these solutions. And most importantly, delivering more end-to-end solutions for the verticals. So for example, in financial services, literally being able to build fraud and underwriting risk types of applications on top of insurance business systems. In banking, being able to build next best customer action and anti-money laundering types of AI applications. In healthcare and precision medicine, being able to build the next generation population data platform so that you can do precision medicine and help practitioners decide what's the best drug to apply to a patient at a particular time, and perhaps even help in the clinical trial process. So these different verticals are emerging with use cases that are becoming more packaged applications. That's the future for Splice Machine as well.
I see that it's pervasive across everybody that's in this space of technology where we're trying to deliver outcomes. And I often find, tech for tech's one thing, but you got to have use cases. It's incredibly important. It's hard, but partners like Accenture, I think, are incredibly valuable. So that's what's next for the company. I guess as a practitioner, with a dude with a lot of experience in this industry, I'd love to pick your brain on when you look around at the world of AI, what do you think is going to happen, or what's maybe the most interesting innovations that need to happen in the next 12 to 24 months for us to continue to see this vision of AI come true?
Yeah. So I think we're starting to crack the nut, but by far not cracked it at the point that it needs to be cracked in productionizing AI, right? There's still a lot of laboratory work. Most of the papers here are about machine learning models that have been applied to a particular use case that have delivered a result, but don't necessarily participate in the everyday workflow of the enterprise. So that is a very tactical but very important level of investment that has to happen across the board in our industry. And we've got our own slant on it, but everyone's got to focus on that. Second, I think there needs to be a focus on explainability and validation. In all my years of deploying AI applications, the most important thing about getting it live was making sure the humans involved in the process that you're trying to automate or augment believe in it. Right. And so the tools that are necessary to validate that the model does what it is expected to do and to explain it, even as simple as visualizing models more effectively, is going to be very important. People hear a lot about deep learning. And deep learning is a fantastic technology. It's performing enormously productive tasks, especially in signal processing types of use cases of image understanding and language understanding. But when you start trying to deploy, let's say, deep learning methods in medicine, and you have a model that's extremely predictive, but you can't explain to a doctor why it does what it does, it's hard for them to adopt it. So we need to get good at that.
Absolutely.
Right? And so that's another area. And I would say that governance is critical. For example, as you're monitoring a machine learning application, let's say an operational AI application, even deployed on Splice Machine, and you notice that your model is making a certain set of predictions one week, and then the next week it's behaving radically differently, right? You don't know why that's happening. You need to be able to provide that team the ability to see what's going on. When was the model deployed? When was it last retrained? What were the feature transformations that went into that model? What were the features used? What were the hyperparameters used? What was the SQL that literally was used in that feature transformation? Be able to answer those questions in minutes so you can find out whether there was a mistake or whether there needs to be a fundamental change to the model. And that kind of closed loop governance, it still doesn't exist yet. And I think that's another really important piece. And then I would say that blue sky types of
I like Blue Sky.
Research.
What was that, Blue Martini? Was it Blue Sky Martini? Or?
That was the old company. But the unfortunate thing about our science, and this is really at the academic level, is that we're only starting to scratch the surface of transfer learning and being able to build AI that is more than just trained on one particular task, right? And being able to use the kind of reasoning techniques that humans are very good at, of being able to transfer one problem to another problem and use some mapping of a solution from one problem on the other problem. This is still early days.
It's very early.
And I think that some of the hype about, the threat of AI and general intelligence is a little bit hyped, because this kind of intelligence was still a little bit a ways off on. And so that's an important scientific contribution that needs to happen.
I don't disagree with that at all. I think that's an apt assessment. One thing that I oftentimes am concerned about when I think about the futures is you talked about that ability to have governance of what happened, where, why. And that's where I see the flip side of it is how much do you think that we're going to start to see ethical and legal regulation of what we're doing in the AI space? Like, how much more do you think that's going to start happen if not we don't solve those problems around reproducibility?
Well, I definitely think that you'll see way more legislation and statutes and compliance and ethical discussions about what we're doing. I don't think they're going to be that different than the way we deal with compliance for expert humans that perform certain tasks, right? We have airline pilots that perform a very specialized task, and they have to be trained in a particular way, and they get certified, and there are rules about how they must behave and what they must maintain. Doctors the same way, even physical therapists retraining every year to become compliant, right, with what's necessary. I think systems are going to have to go through that as well.
It's an interesting approach.
They're
I like that
going to have
analogy.
to get certified.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to be that different than the way we certify and monitor and govern human experts. I think that there'll just be a lot more of it for systems as well.
Yeah, interesting. So if our listeners wanted to go out and learn more about Splice Machine, help me understand where's the best place to start in terms of their learning to get more information.
Definitely. Well, our website is clearly the best place to start. www.splicemachine.com is a great place to go look. Additionally, there are launch pads on that website where you can, if you're a practitioner and a data scientist, if you want to get yourself a Docker container and really try the system, you could do it with one click there. If you're a business decision maker who wants to look at case studies of uses of Splice Machine, you can find that information there. But that's the best place to start. We're also an open source platform as well. So if you're simply really interested in looking at the underlying tech, all of our docs are online too at docs.splicemachine.com. And so those are a few good sources of information.
Excellent. Well, very good. Well, Monte, it's been excellent talking with you about Splice Machine and the unique approach to really operational AI in a way that it doesn't sound like any of the other platform players have achieved.
We're on a mission, and we're going to stay focused on that mission. And I really appreciate the time and the opportunity to talk to you about that.
We've learned a lot from our guests about big data, but now it's time to get a bit personal in a segment we like to call Rapid Fire. Pew, pew.
All right, so let's start it out, Monte. The first question in Rapid Fire is, what's the last great book you read that you'd recommend to us?
Oh, that's interesting. So I would say the last great book was Homo Deus that I just recently read, which is the follow-on book to Sapiens.
Oh, really? From, I can't think of the guy's name, the Israeli
exactly.
scientist, yeah.
Yes,
Brilliant.
Is it that? I can't remember his name either.
I'll put the link in the show notes, but the Sapiens was amazing.
Yes, this next one is very good and very germane to what we were just talking about.
If you got to tell the producers that they could put on a song for you as you walked on stage, what would that walk-on song be?
I don't know. I guess it would probably be something by like the Clash or the Talking Heads, I think, is that I would end up going with, or maybe something more modern like LCD Sound System.
There you go. That puts set the mood real nice.
That's my vibe.
That's awesome. I'm gonna see if I can find some for you.
All right.
All right. Is there a piece of technology that is currently making your life worse?
I would argue that we have so many different social media connection points. It is extraordinarily difficult to stay current on every touch point. And so, you obviously have your email, you have your, all of your feeds, whether that's LinkedIn and Twitter, and then, you've got your Slack channels within your own company. And it's, I think, just an explosive amount of media hitting you at all times. And I think it takes a great deal of discipline to disconnect transactionally from the messages coming in and let yourself think about stuff. And I think that's it just gets increasingly more difficult to make the space to think and communicate directly with people like this versus just electronically.
I 1,000% agree with you. I've gotten into the habit of checking email 3 times a day. Because at the end of the day, I'm not a doctor. Like, it's not, if I don't get back to him in 3 hours, nobody's dying. Like, it's just not going to happen.
It's hard.
But it is. But it's made my life more productive. I agree with that. 100%.
I think that's a great discipline.
So personally, what is your biggest money pit? Like, where does all your disposable income go?
That's very funny. Well, I would argue that it goes to my kids' education.
That's an expensive one.
And then secondarily, it's probably on vacations. I try to, if there's something I try to save up my money for and splurge, is an experience for me and my wife and my kids to go have together, or just me and my wife, and go see something special in the world and experience it live.
Well, that's awesome. I'm actually going to go out of order here from our normal order because I liked that answer, because I also love travel. What's the next interesting place that you're planning to go?
Yeah, the next interesting place that we're planning to go is Greece.
Greece.
Go to a few islands in Greece.
Okay. Are like the Mykonos, those kinds of islands? Or are you going?
I think we're going to go a little bit. We're going to go a little bit outside the kind of bustle of Mykonos. Yeah. So, maybe Santorini, a couple of other places.
I can't recommend Corfu enough.
Good to know.
It is amazing. All right. Now, final question. In your travels, probably spend a lot of time on airplanes. Do you have any shows, like Netflix shows or TV shows on cable that you're binging on, or that you love?
Yeah. Let's see. Let's think about this now. I'm a TV guy.
Okay.
So I do my share of TV, but God, some of my shows are in hiatus right now. Like, I have to say that I love Shameless, right? That's one thing that I dig. And Bodyguard was really good. And, but those are the kinds of shows that I kind of like.
I dig it.
What's your show?
I'm kind of hooked into Game of Thrones right now. I watched all of them leading up to. I read the books first, so I'm kind of one of those people that if there's, I go and read the books. The books were, and I say read. People give me grief. I listened to them on Audible.
Yeah.
They were like 42 hours each book, and
I
there's
can
5 of them.
imagine.
So it was a huge investment. So then when the shows came out, I was like, all right. And frankly, the shows are really good. Like the shows are better than the books. I'll just say it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. Like there's episode 3 comes out next Sunday night. I've got to be in Las Vegas for work on Sunday night, so I'm actually we're planning to have a hangout with a bunch of our coworkers in a room, get some pizza, and watch Game of Thrones.
It's clearly a way of life now to watch that.
Yeah.
Everyone's all gun ho.
Yeah. The other one my wife and I really are into is The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I watched it too.
Just a brilliant. I just loved it. I love the quick dialogue, the humor.
Very good dialogue.
Yeah, it was great. Well, Monte, it's been super fun to talk about Splice Machine. Also very good to get to know you personally. I look forward to, we'll hear your session. We'll put the notes in the show notes. We'll have a link to your live stream.
I love it.
Well, thanks again for joining the
Thank
Big Data
you very
Beard,
much.
Monte. Thank you, sir.
It's a pleasure.
Cheers.
Bye.
The next Data Science Salon is taking place in New York City on June 13th. The topic for this salon is applying AI and machine learning to media and entertainment. If you haven't attended one of these before, you'll get to see a healthy mix of use cases, technical talks, and workshops, and you'll walk away with actionable insights from those working on the front lines of machine learning in the enterprise. Make sure you check out this exciting event, and remember, you can use promo code BDBeard19 to get 20% off your conference pass. We'll see you there.
The music from this episode is by Andrew Belle. Check him out on iTunes or Spotify.
Thanks for listening to the Big Data Beard podcast.